We are back with another video today, and this is going to be the 5th installment in the series of Key War Attackers. We're going to be covering the Tech class today. One more time to go over how the rankings are. There are 3 tiers total. Tier 1 is the critical attackers. They're assigned a majority of the wars, sometimes multiple per war, and then ideally you want to have 3 to 4 per BG. Tier 2 is the important war attackers. Multiple times they're assigned per season. They are the optimal option for many fights on the war map, and usually you want to have 2 to 3 per BG. And then tier 3 is the nice to have. These are rarely assigned attackers. Usually just 1 per BG is plenty. Unique circumstances lead to their assignment. Usually it's a ban or something like that, or a very specific node on the map that requires it. But we will jump into it now, starting with tier 1. And the tech class is an interesting class in that there's not many champions in tier 1 or in tier 3. There's a ton in tier 2 though. So we'll go through these though real quick. So tier 1 though, we have Ghost. Now, some of these tech attackers I would say are not assigned the majority of the wars, but they could be depending on the map. So Ghost is obviously one of those prime examples. With the change in war map, she is by far the best option for the hazard shift path at this point, since she can cover all of the fights. Now, the one flaw of Ghost is that most people are very aware of Ghost, and so many tier 1 planners will make sure their path 9 is ghost proof, which obviously makes her not usable. So Ghost is one of those scenarios where the defender or the planners plan around her so that she can't be used, or they'll just outright ban her. So she's in a unique spot because of that. So you don't see her assigned as much because people are literally planning around her. Now, why is she so good? Again, she turns all the debuffs she receives into Furies. Any damaging debuffs, she turns them into Furies. And then she has phasing, which she can phase attacks, so she can create easy openings, get easy intercepts. She cannot have her attacks evaded when she throws or when she does one a hit. So with her precision, she doesn't have, when she has her precision, her attacks cannot be evaded. So if you do the one hit and then do a bunch of phasing to get power, and then her specials won't be evaded as well. So she's really good for that. And then her synergies can take her up to another level. They give her unblockable specials with the Wasp synergy, and then the Hood synergy makes it so she takes 0 damage while phased, which can be really good at tanking special 3s. Now, she was hurt by the power back situation, of course, since she can't just spam special 2s, but she still gets a lot of power, and she's still really good against Hazard Shift. So great champion. Don't know if we'll see a 7-star, but hopefully we do in the future. Next, I will say, is probably the more standard. It's probably a proper tier 1 champ in that they are assigned a lot, and that is Ultron. Now, Ultron has kind of a bit of a renaissance. He didn't used to be as popular, but he's become very popular again, especially when he came out as a 7-star. But at high sig, he is able to reduce the duration of shock and incinerates, and then he regenerates 66% of the energy damage he takes. Now that goes on top of his bleed and poison immunities. He's also immune to slow, which isn't super helpful for attack, but you know. So with all those immunities and the regenerating energy damage, he can take a lot of the hazard shift fights, a lot of them. He can do the incinerate and shock one, node 43, and then the bleed and poison paired with that allows him to take several of the other ones as well. So he's really strong because of that. He has really good damage. He has good damage over time with him stacking up a bunch of bleeds, and then he can also get a good amount of armor ups. So he's a really strong champ, and he is assigned quite frequently. And I see that continuing to be the case with the hazard shift changes. And then the next champ, and this one, probably a bit debatable if they deserve to be in tier 1 or tier 2, is going to be Omega Sentinel. I say it's debatable because you probably don't need 4 people with this champ. 3 would be nice though. And she's probably assigned to quite a bit less than Ghost would be if she wasn't banned or people weren't planning around her. And then Ultron is planned definitely more than Omega Sentinel. But Omega Sentinel has a bunch of utility in her kit. She is bleed and poison immune, basically. She takes 0 damage from bleed and poison, and when she has one of those applied to her, she heals from it. So really nice effect there. She's immune to Nullify, Stagger, and Fate Seal, which is very unique in the tech class. It allows her to take a lot of the Power Snack nodes, take node 28, the old node 39, which is kind of node 42 now. So that uniqueness is really strong. She also has super easy to access heal block and tracking, so she can counter miss. And she has the heal block with the mediums. You can select in the pre-fight which debuff you start with, and you can also rotate them by throwing a heavy attack. And then she also is she's also immune to ability accuracy reduction versus mutants, so she's good against Domino and those kind of champs, Magneto. And then she also has great damage over time with Incinerates or Plasmas, depending on if she's fighting a mutant, it's Plasma, anyone else, it's Incinerate. And those Incinerate damage does really well. So she has good damage over time to bypass Safeguard, and she hits ridiculously hard as well, especially when running Suicides. So really good champ. But yeah, probably could debatably be tier 2 for sure. And a lot of people don't like her for some reason. I personally like her, but I don't have her. We're now going to make our way to tier 2. And like I said, there's not many champs in tier 1 and tier 3, but this is the biggest tier 2 group of all the lists so far. First up, we'll jump to Prowler. Prowler is a really strong champion. He has a unique set of immunities, being immune to Bleed, Incinerate, and Falter, which are really nice to have. His medium attacks are non-contact and cannot be evaded either. And he also has a pursuit on his special 1 that lasts pretty long. I think it's like 15 seconds. Let's check. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Super long. So you can power start 1, get that up, and then you can kind of keep it up probably the whole fight fairly easily and have a good evade counter with him. He also has his own falter that he does for openings, and he has power drain and power lock as well. And then he has rupture, passive rupture damage, which is great for getting around safeguard. So really strong champ. He's my most wanted champ from the basic by a mile. I don't know why I can't pull him. Next, we'll jump to Shocker. Shocker has the shock immunity, and he's also concussion immune, which is really nice. Like several of these tech champs you're going to see, he also does not crit when he hits the defenders. So that can be beneficial on several nodes, but non-crits is really nice ability to have. He invalidates prowess on his medium attacks, or he has a chance to, and then he has the massive damage on his heavy attack. So you usually with him, you want to throw a couple special 1s to get your charges built up, then you go to a special 2, then you charge, hold heavy, and you charge it for a long time, and then you hit the defender and they die. So his damage is massive when he does that. So he's really strong for ending a lot of fights quick because of his big heavy attack damage, and that is, utility in itself, being able to take a lot of fights. And he can take mini bosses with that, with 2 special 1s into a special 2. If the node's not doing anything to stop him, that will end almost every single fight. Next, we will make our way to one of the champs I like. They are a bit more controversial in that some alliances don't like her, but she is a very strong champ. That is going to be Ironheart. She is immune to Incinerate, Cold Snap, Frostbite, and reverse controls with an armor up. So as long as she has her armor up, she's immune to all of that, which is a nice set of immunities. Her debuffs and armor up can't have ability accuracy modified versus mutants. Another nice thing to have versus dominoes and stuff like that. And her tracking, which she gets when she has 5 debuffs on the opponent, allows you to bypass miss. It allows you to parry non-contact attacks, and it's you can block mutant special attacks as well. Actually, I don't know if that's tied to falter. Yeah, it is tied to tracking. So yeah, and then the Bane one, which I think is the one that people don't fully understand is the second one here. The opponents are and robots are suffering from a tracking effect, suffer minus 100% ability accuracy. That's robots when hitting Ironheart's block, and then mutants suffer 150%. That allows her to do the bubble shield fight super easily because once she has her 5 debuffs up, she basically turns the node off. So you don't have to worry about the tracking at all. So she's really good, or the bubble shield at all. So she's really good for Onslaught there. She has great damage over time, obviously. You can choose between Rupture and Incinerate, which makes her great for Safeguard nodes in Node 49. Now Node 48 she'll be also really good for. So really strong champ in all of that. She's not the fastest, but she is also really good versus the old Node 31 Dust, which I think it is the same thing. So she's really good against Dust there too, who's placed there every war basically. So yeah, Ironheart's really solid, and I think a lot of people aren't using her to her full capabilities. We will jump to our next champ though, and that is going to be Sentinel, a new champ. I think mine's rank 3. Yes, there he is. So Sentinel, really strong champion. He has great set of immunities, immune to poison, bleed, and cold snap, and armor break. He's very tanky. Once he gets his charges up, it reduces their increases his armor rating and critical resistance. So it makes him very tanky because of that. He also is able to spam specials very easily, which is very nice. He has an easy to access heal block on the special 1, and then he has good damage over time with the shock and then the incinerates from his special 2. And then he also is tanky in the sense that he can basically restart. You throw the special 3 and you get a full new bot. So if you take a bunch of damage, things aren't looking great, you throw the special 3 and you get a full health Sentinel. So really nice to have. But that covers Sentinel. So we'll work our way to the next champ, which is going to be Red Skull. Red Skull, another very strong champion. He is immune to Nullify, Fate Seal, and Stagger. He also can't have his ability accuracy modified by mutants, so he's a good domino counter. He also has a heal block on his heavy, which is really nice. He has power drain when they hit into his block while he has an armor up. And then he has good damage over time with his shock damage as well. So really solid champ. And yeah, he's assigned a decent amount because of that. Next, we have Warlock, another really good champ. And you'll see a lot of the tech champs have nice heal block access on top of their immunities. And Warlock has good immunities as well. He's immune to bleed, poison, cold snap, and frostbite. His infections, which he applies 5 for a parry, and then each hit applies 1. Once he has 20, it implies the infection. And then that infection is a heal block. Now, that heal block is really potent because it's not an actual debuff, it's passive. And when they try and heal, it actually degens the defender. So he has one of the most unique heal blocks and is very good, and it counters a lot of nodes. So because of that, he's very popular and a really strong champ. He has nice damage over time on the bleed from his heavy attacks, and then his special 2 with suicides does a lot of damage as well. You can't spam them with power backs like you used to be able to, but it's still really strong damage there as well. Our next champ in tier 2 is going to be Shuri. Shuri is an excellent champ. She's immune to shock and precision, so she's kind of pseudo buff immune, which is really nice. She's not immune to, other people, the defender placing buffs on her. She's not immune to placebo, but she doesn't create her own buffs herself, which is really good. She can't have her ability accuracy altered. She has, she can block unblockable specials, which is really nice. She has non-contact attacks, which is good. And then she has great damage over time. So she's a really strong champ. And again, with the good damage over time, she's able to get around Safeguard pretty easily as well. Next, we have Iron Man. Iron Man is very strong. He has really good damage as well. With the armor up, he's immune to Cold Snap, Frostbite, and Incinerate, so a good set of immunities there. His armor ups are Nullify and Stagger immune, and they also have increased ability accuracy, so they should be Neutralize immune as well, except for against Cosmics. And then he has removal of prowess on his special 1, and special 2. Actually, his specials in general remove prowess. And then he has a nice armor break on his special 1. And he stacks a ton of armors himself, so he's also very tanky. And once he gets those the armor breaks on the opponent from the special 1, he starts hitting like a truck as well. So he has really good damage in that way too. Next up, and this one I debated putting him in tier 3. I don't have them, is Hulkbuster. His kit's pretty simple, but he has really good power control. If you know how to play him, you throw the special 2 into their block. His specials are unblockable, and then he has damage over time with his shock, which is really strong. But he's a pretty simple champ. He might be more of a tier 3 champ, to be honest, but a lot of people really like him, and he is really good for a lot of the tricky defenders. Next, we have Jack. You'll notice I'm missing a lot of tech champs. Jack, he has a good set of immunities as well, because he's immune to reverse controls, which we've seen a couple of those here, which could be nice for the new node. He's also immune to Incinerate. He can parry non-contact attacks, which is really nice. He has lots of damage over time with his big special 2, doing poison and plasma damage, or poison and incinerate damage. He also removes prowess on specials. And then he has an armor break. Oh, sorry, no. Does not remove prowess on specials. He has no crits, which is nice as well. And then he has, he's a great onslaught counter, which is also really good to have. So yeah, he's a really strong champ. And I think he's assigned a decent amount, usually to specifically counter Onslaught, but he's really good against a lot of different mutants as well. Next, we have Lady Deathstrike. She is has some unique utility from her kit. She's bleed and poison reduces the potency of bleed and poison damage by 90%, so not really properly immune, but still pretty good for those hazard shift nodes. She's immune to ability accuracy reduction versus mutants, which is a common theme you're seeing for a lot of tech. It's counter Magneto. She is, when she applies her heal block, and this is where her unique utility is, that prevents unstoppable and unblockable from triggering. So she's really good with that against certain champions and nodes. You have the Footloose, so she can stop the unstoppable from triggering. She can stop the unstoppable triggering on node 47. And then she's great against Weapon X for the heal block and preventing unstoppable and unblockable as well. So really unique utility there. And then she has good damage over time with all of her ruptures. So with all that combined, she's a really strong champ. Next, we have Guardian. Guardian should see a bit of a surge in how much he's assigned with the new hazard shift nodes. He has very high bleed resistance and energy resistance when he's at max sig, so he can take a lot of the hazard shift nodes because of that. He has no critical hits like some of the other ones we've talked about, which is nice. Instead, he does a burst of shock damage. He has the ability to parry non-contact hits, which is also very nice. He has great block proficiency, so he's very tanky because of that. And you can kind of perfect block on specials as well. And then he has massive special damage. You throw a couple special ones, you throw a special 2, and you do big shock damage there too, which can get around Safeguard. So really strong champ. I expect he will be assigned more going forward, but we shall see. And then the final one in tier 2, I'm sorry, is going to be Nimrod. And Nimrod, I could see falling to tier 3 unless he gets a 7-star. The reason for that is the health pools on path fights have been increased quite a bit. And with that, he probably can't nuke some of the target fights he has right now. He used to do Weapon X on node 18. I don't think he'll have enough damage to get it down now. So he may just fall off being assigned at all. So we'll see if he does slide down. But he has bleed and poison immunity, which is nice. He's immune to ability accuracy reduction from mutants. He removes prowess on his combos and any hit from him. And then he has big shock damage on the special 2, passive shocks, which is really good as well. But he really needs the 7-star to make sure he stays in this tier 2. I don't see why he shouldn't have a 7-star release soon, so maybe we'll see it in the next couple months. And now we're going to jump to tier 3. Tier 3, we just have 3 champs here. Again, very small. We have Idum, who is immune to shock and incinerate with his armor up. He does not crit either. Instead, he applies shocks, I think. He has easy. He's easily able to knock down opponents. You can kind of combo in, and you hold heavy. You turn one of the shocks into a passive stun instead, and then he has great power control with the power drain. Obviously, on his special too, he has power lock. So he's really good against specific fights. Mainly, he's a good bishop counter. Is really his big target fight. So that's why he's not up in tier 2 because you just don't assign him that much, but he can be used every now and then. And again, with the immunities, he's good for node 43. Next up is going to be Howard the Duck. I haven't assigned him in a long time, but I have in the past. He has bleed immunity, which is really nice. He gets lots of buffs. You do his auto. You can trigger his thing so it auto does it. But basically, parrying you heavy, and you get a lot of Furies, and then armor ups as well, I believe. Or maybe it's just Furies. He has also very easy access armor break on his heavy attack, which is really nice. Then yeah, he can be a very good champ, and he's good for certain fights, but again, rarely assigned, especially when compared to the previously talked about champs. And then the last champ is going to be a 6-star, and really, I mean, they should probably be in honorable mentions, but I really like Future Ant-Man. I hope we get a 7-star of him soon. He has a very tanky because he glances a lot of attacks. He has great burst damage, so he can be good for safeguard with his special 2 when he has the red icon there. And then he reduces the duration of bleed and incinerates by 90% and heals from them as well. So I think as a 7-star, he would get more use. Again, when people are running deep wounds, the bleed still hurt quite a bit. But yeah, Future Ant-Man's a really cool champ. I really hope we get a 7-star. And then he might move up to tier 2. But right now, I haven't assigned a Future Ant-Man, and I don't know if I've ever assigned Future Ant-Man, to be honest. But he used to be really good before 7-stars came out. We will now run through honorable mentions, and there are a lot of honorable mentions, so I will do this quickly. First up is Punisher 2099. He has great power control, especially when you pair him with the collar tech. He has good damage as well, and he has a little bit of other utility. I think he has a couple other parts of the kit that are nice utility, but he's not super commonly assigned, and I haven't assigned him ever in tier 1. Next, we'll go to Penny Parker. Before, I would have probably said she would have been tier 3, but again, she's Incinerate and Poison immune, and that Hazard Shift node was taken away. So she's off tier 3 because of that. And people didn't like assigning her there anyway. She has a nice heal block. She's a good counter to Fury, but besides that, she has good damage over time on the special too as well. Once you build her up with a couple special ones, but she's just not commonly used. A lot of people really don't like using her, especially Steve. But I can't imagine assigning her for a fight on the new map at all. Next, we have Starkey. A lot of people really like him. He has really good damage, and he has a power drain on the heavy, but besides that, he doesn't have much utility, so there's no reason to assign him for any fight, in my opinion. Next, we have the Visions, and I'll just show this Vision. They're good immunities and poison and bleed, and then they have good power control. But besides that, they're not very strong. Their damage is really bad, so just not a champ that you would assign. Next, we have Guillotine 2099. She's more of a long form content champion. She has good immunities though with the poison and bleed. She has good power drain, and then she has a heal reversal with the Spectre on the special 2. But again, not a champ you're going to assign much. She's very slow. So yeah, just not the best champ. Next is going to be 2 6-stars. And we have Viv Vision. I used her a couple seasons ago. She's definitely not my favorite because I died with her and ruined my streak. But she does have a good amount of utility. She has the passive heal block, which is really nice and would be really good for new Node 37 since it has a cleanse part of its thing. She has good damage with the special 2 loop, or the special 2 into a bunch of special 1s is really good damage. She's immune to nullify and stagger. Nullified Fate Seal, I'm sorry. She stacks a bunch of armor ups. And yeah, so she can be good. She just is really tiny health pool, as you'll see there. Probably the lowest in the game. And then being 6-star locked, she's just, you definitely don't want to sign her because she was very scary to use. And then the final champ is going to be Nebula. I think if Nebula had a 7-star, she would definitely move up to tier 2. She has a good set of immunities with bleed, poison, and shock. And then she can turn off mutants. She also has good damage over time on the shock from the special 2. So could be a good champ, but as a 6-star, it's hard to really make a case for her to be assigned at any point. But that does cover all of the champions I wanted to mention. I will now jump over to the Excel sheet to show the update. All right, and here's our updated list. And as I mentioned, the least amount of champs in tier 1 and tier 3, but they do have the most champs in tier 2. So Tech is an interesting class for that. It's probably not the strongest class, and they could use like a really good champ. I think that would really help the class overall. But they have a lot of strong attackers they're just not the best war attackers. But yeah, that is our 5th installment of this. So we are gonna have the final one tomorrow, which will be Mystic, and that will round out the series. But that is gonna do it for this video, though. Thank you for watching.